With a new chapter in the 1982 Brighton axe murder case. A jury heard opening arguments today in the trial of James Krauseneck. Good evening, I'm Don Alhart. Krauseneck is accused of murdering his wife Kathleen with an axe at their home on Del Rio Drive in Brighton 4 decades ago. Years later, in 2019, he was arrested. Jackie Napier was in court today, joining us live now from the Hall of Justice with what took place. Jackie?
Yes, Don, Sarah Krauseneck, who was just 3 years old at the time of her mother's murder, will not be called to testify in court. Instead, the officer who took Sarah's statement back in 1982 will testify as to what Sarah said to him on that day. James Krauseneck arrived in court with his wife and daughter this morning. First to testify today was Thomas Schimmer, a former Brighton police officer who was first on the scene. Jurors also heard from Eileen Marin Keating, a neighbor of the Krausenecks who called 911. She said when Krauseneck came to her door around 5 p.m. the day of the murder, she immediately thought he looked ashen and horrified. Krauseneck claims he came home to find his wife dead. Prosecutors say when police investigated the crime scene initially, money was found in plain view and a ring was left on Kathy's finger. The defense argues Krauseneck had an alibi the day of the homicide, saying he was at a meeting at Kodak Park, and his co-workers claim he appeared, quote, perfectly normal, quote. They talked about the challenges in this case.
Oh, it's very challenging. People are testifying to something 40 years ago, and it's very hard to remember an event decades earlier, and what you're doing is basically remembering your memory. And so these witnesses are challenged. They're relying a lot on prior recollection and doing the best they can, but it's very challenging for a witness to testify with any degree of certainty as to what happened 40 years ago.
The prosecution says that while they may not be able to prove why the murder occurred, they are confident that at the end of this trial, the evidence will more than prove James Krauseneck murdered his wife in 1982.
We begin with breaking news tonight. One person is dead after a fire created a chaotic scene in a Rochester high-rise. This happened at the Hudson Ridge Towers and is home to hundreds of seniors and people with disabilities. Good evening, I'm Jenny Ryan.
And I'm Doug Embledge. Drivers on Route 104 could see the flames and smoke as they passed by. We're going to get right to Carla Rogner, still live at the scene tonight with what we've learned about the fire. Carla?
Yeah, we did learn one person has died in this fire. RFD says it was a male resident of this building. We learned the fire started in his apartment on the 11th floor, and he was able to make it out before he succumbed to his injuries. The Rochester Fire Department sent about 16 trucks and engines to respond to this fire. According to the Rochester Housing Authority, this 16-story building offers limited income housing to seniors and people with disabilities. Instead of evacuating, residents were told to shelter in place, put towels under their doors, and open windows and balconies. RFD Captain David Abdoch says that's protocol for a fire at a high-rise building like this.
You go from just, watching TV and having dinner to now you got heavy smoke, and it's not like the movies. That smoke is scary, it is hot, and it's difficult to breathe in it. So I can see them being very, getting nervous and trying to get away from it as far from the hallway as they can. And the only thing that they have, us normally we probably go out to the window, go outside and go downstairs, but they don't have that situation here. So it's get farthest away from it and get outside.
Rochester, the district says it is close to being fully staffed. That's the first time since the pandemic began. Now, as Chase Howell reports, there were 600 vacant positions at the beginning of the summer. Chase?
Doug, one parent I spoke to says after last year's challenges with busing and staffing inside the classroom, she decided to send her kids to a charter school this year. Another mom I talked with says she's hopeful this is going to be the best year yet. Sarah Abrams is picking out her son's clothes for his first day of third grade, stacking his khaki pants and blue polo on top of his dresser, all ready to go ahead of Wednesday. He goes here to school number 23 in the Rochester School District. We spoke to Abrams a year ago when she, like many parents across the district, were struggling to get their kids to and from school because of bus staffing issues.
His school changed from a 7:30 start time to an 8:30 start time. We weren't sure if transportation was going to be available, so we offered to transport him ourselves.
Chris Miller is in charge of hiring at RCSD. He anticipates last year's bus issues won't be a problem this school year.
We have added an additional vendor to assist us with transportation. We've reduced the number of bus runs, and so we do not anticipate the same issues that we saw last school year.
Miller says the district is also fully staffed in the classrooms. Of the 600 vacant positions open at the start of summer, 99% are now filled.
At any given time, we know that we're going to have turnover and we have some resignations that we're dealing with, but we are ready to go and fully staffed for tomorrow. I have a sub pool that's over 460 people, and we're working every day to recruit and hire additional subs so that we have subs to fill all our needs as it evolves over the course of the year.
Abrams says while the last school year had a bumpy start, she's optimistic about this year.
I'm hopeful for continuity. No year is going to be exactly the same as last year. I'm hopeful that my child's school will be staffed enough that he, and with familiar faces, that he'll get all of the most important pieces of learning.
And Rochester school leaders say they are still looking for more substitute teachers, especially as fall approaches. Anyone with 2 years of education is able to apply.